Hi everyone, I'm back. Well, I hope the connection stays this time. And I hope you can see me better. I'm gonna move just a little bit back. It's really, really windy here. Okay. Hi everyone, it's Kino here. I'm on the beautiful island of St. Martin and it is really, really windy today. I hope you can still hear me. I had to change position um, because it was really dark where I was before, and also because the connection dropped. I guess it's the island Wi-Fi. So congratulations for making it to day 13 on the yoga challenge. Awesome! The theme of the day is patience. Patience. And I've actually had to been really patient today because the internet dropped and then I had to change location, and then there have been all sorts of things that have been testing my patience a little bit, including this wind, which is really beautiful, but it's making it hard for me to see and talk right now. So let's talk about patience on the yoga path. I think you can already get the sense that I'm not naturally a patient person, but the yoga practice over 20 years has really taught me how to be more patient and kind with myself and others. And this is something that you can really learn. There was once a time when I first started practicing that I tried a yoga pose 20 times in one day, and it didn't make it happen any sooner. In fact, my body got really sore and just on the borderline of injured when I tried to force myself into a pose. So it's really important to learn the lesson of patience in the yoga practice. And this is one way that you can really take the lesson of what you learn on your mat and bring that into your everyday life. I kind of feel like we all need to be more patient and kind with ourselves and then learn to be more patient and kind of with our whole world. It would make such a big difference if we were, that little bit more patient with ourselves. Impatience is a huge source of frustration, irritation, even anger that kind of comes up and down and flutters around. So this is something I really want you to think about when you're practicing. That the Sanskrit notion of the word patience is called kshanti. And this includes not only an attitude of waiting, but an attitude of forgiveness, and also the idea of forbearance, or the idea that you're willing to stay the course. You're willing to put in the work, you're willing to stick with it. You don't need to snap your fingers and make it happen immediately, but you have strength, energy, and enthusiasm to stay the course over many, many years of practice. And this is something that's really important when you're working with the body. Now, I kind of feel like the body in the yoga poses, I use the analogy like you are planting a garden. Say you're working on lotus pose, which I'm sitting in right now. Imagine that, or think about planting the seed of a lotus flower in the garden. The garden is your body. You can't rush the timing of the blooming or the opening of the flower. Each flower has its own time. Each flower has its own time. Each flower is going to need the right amount of nutrients to sort of come to its beautiful bloom, and you can't rush it. If you go in and you dig into the ground and you're like, hey, flower, come on out right now. I really want your bloom to happen now. It would be so awesome if it was just now. That's not going to make your flower bloom any faster. In fact, you'll actually disturb the process and ruin the whole birth of that beautiful flower. So in other words, your body is like a flower that's blooming and blossoming and needs its own time in order to share the beautiful bloom that it's working on. And if you're working on your lotus position, you don't want to force it. You want to nurture the fertile ground of the body with patience, kindness, forbearance, with the attitude of forgiveness. This is so, so important when you think about it. There are so many times when you might be frustrated with yourself or your world, impatient that you're not changing faster, that you keep making the same mistakes faster, that your lotus isn't opening faster. You can look at your world and be so impatient with the world. Why don't our world leaders get it? Why don't we do positive things in the world? Why aren't we nicer to each other? And that impatience is the source of so much frustration, suffering, anger, and hurt in the world. If you can learn to be patient with yourself, you can learn to have a forgiving and kind heart. And you can take that off of the mat. And what's interesting about that is when you're infinitely patient, it seems like things start to open and manifest and materialize in a way that when you're impatient, you're actually blocking the natural growth and evolution of the process. I'm going to share a story with you that is a traditional story from the yoga mythology. There are three beings who are very interested in the path of enlightenment. And these three beings are engaged in different activities. So there's one being who's kind of happily going about their daily business. There's another being who's a dedicated yogi and is practicing with intensity. And then there's another being who is singing and dancing underneath the trees. And these are what you could call like three different types of yoga practitioners. And they all exist, you know, just in the world as the story goes, right? And so the story continues and says that Shiva, who is a Hindu deity and a master yogi, is walking and comes into contact with these three beings. The first being that the yogi meets is just the average person who's going about their daily business, and Shiva meets this person who's also a yoga practitioner and says, hey, how's it going for you? Immediately the person recognizes, hey, you're Shiva, tell me how long until I attain enlightenment. And then Shiva says, well, just keep going and maybe, 20 more lifetimes for you, keep practicing. Then Shiva meets the yogi who's there practicing in the lotus position, lifting himself up off the ground, doing all these crazy yoga poses. And then the yogi says, hey, Lord Shiva, I see you. How many more lifetimes for me? And then Lord Shiva says to the dedicated and devout yogi, oh, wow, you practice so hard. I think maybe one more lifetime for you. Immediately, the yogi gets angry and says, man, I thought it was going to be this lifetime. I've been working so hard. Like, what's wrong with you? It gets really, really impatient. And then is kind of thrown back into the cycle of more practice, more suffering, that sort of thing. The third being, dancing under the trees, who's said to represent what's called the bhakti path or the heart of devotion, sees Shiva and says, oh, Lord Shiva, I love you. I'm so glad that I finally got to see you. It's such a blessing even to be in your presence. I don't really care how many lifetimes it takes me, but since you're here, maybe you'll tell me. So then Lord Shiva says, oh, for you? See the tree that you're dancing under? And he says, yes, I see the tree I'm dancing under. And then Lord Shiva says, see the leaves on the tree? Yes, I can see the leaves on the tree. And then Lord Shiva says, if you can count the leaves on the tree, that many more lifetimes you have until you'll find your way out of the cycle of suffering and reach the end goal of yoga. At which point the bhakti yogi, the devotional yogi says, oh, thank you, Lord Shiva. I am so grateful that there is an end to my suffering. Thank you for sharing this teaching with me. Thank you so much. Then Lord Shiva says, because you have infinite patience, immediately you get the result. Take my hand and I'll take you into the realm of enlightenment now. So this is a story that shows that if you are attached to your results and you're attached to them unfolding in a particular time frame, then it's highly likely that you won't actually retain the results. Your impatience will block you. But if you can open up your heart and think about infinite patience and be kind to yourself, be forgiving to yourself, then you can attain perhaps the immediate result, at least of peace of mind. So this is a really important thing to remember. Next time you're rushing a pose and forcing it, be the yogi with the heart full of love, willing to wait thousands of lifetimes. And in the meantime, wake up to the truth of true peace and true happiness exactly as you are. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Remember, if you want to join the challenge, it's on omstars.com and you get a free month of practice with me, and I'll guide you through practices that will bring you into the heart and soul of what yoga really is. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Namaste.